It's easy to download the grades from MyLab. You just have to click on Gradebook, and then you want to select Export Data and Advanced Export. When you get to Advanced Export, I like to give the export a name like Unit 1 export when we do Unit 2, just to make sure it's clear. Then you want to go through and select Student Assignment Results. And now it's going to bring up the tab to do a spreadsheet layout. Now we want to do a spreadsheet layout that supports Canvas, which is what we use via ELMS. Now we do want this for all students, but we don't need every category. So you want to go through and select either by category. For us, it'll be by specific assignment is the best way to do it to make sure that you're getting just the assignments that have been completed so far. So that will include homework number 1. Students should have submitted the following quizzes, simulations, Chapter 6 quiz, Chapter 7 quiz, and that should be it for right now, except for the essay. So I'm scrolling through to find the essay. Unfortunately, it's down at the bottom. Now be careful, I just noticed this says what is management final draft. We've changed this, there's not a separate assignment for it now, so you should just be able to find essay 1, what is management. I know that's confusing, but unfortunately this is the assigned one. In prior semesters they had a separate tab. We just use the assigned one and allow for a second draft within this first one. So I'm going to click OK. Now that I've selected the completed assignments that have grades in MyLab, and I'm going to select Submit Request. So now we just have to wait until the request is set. We'll receive an email once it is. When MyLab's done doing the grades, which usually takes just a few minutes, you'll get an email that says something like this. And you can either click on the link or you can just go back into the screen, which is what I'm going to do to download the results. So again, I'm going to click Gradebook. And now if you go to Export Data, you'll notice it says Retrieve Advanced Exports. You'll see the Unit 1 exports now available. Now on a Mac, this is going to do the download correctly and keeping it in a CSV file. I have had some problems in trying to do this with a PC, so I recommend just using the Mac to keep the data file intact. So I'm going to hit OK, and now I'm just going to go into ELMS. Give me a second here to change this. Oh. There we go, got it over. So I'm going into ELMS and I'm going to click on Grades. And you'll see here the ability to import grades. And it wants you to select a CSV file. So I'm going to select the CSV file that I just downloaded. I'm just going to my downloads, clicking on the file as is. And it's really easy, you just hit upload data and it'll actually do this relatively quickly in Canvas. Now the only problem is if any of the students gave a name that's kind of different than what's in the ELMS systems, you just have to go through and mark who it is. So, it's pretty easy to figure that out. Mackenzie Carroll here, Mackenzie Carroll. And as you go through, just make sure the names match. Unfortunately, now it'll force you to do this, each time we upload. It won't recognize the students correctly. Here the difference between Catherine Harris and Katie Harris. The system just wants you to confirm. Stephen is not in the class anymore, which is why he's not popping up with something similar. Matt's right here. Julianne's another example of someone not in the class anymore, and generally that's the case if you don't see a similar name. We have Charlie's in the class, Sean, Josh right here. Anthony's another example of someone not in the class. Jasmine, would not be in the class, and Charlena is right here. So that's very simple. We've chosen the students, just made sure they match up to double check. Now they want you to go through and match, what the assignment is in MyLab to what it shows up as in ELMS. So homework, getting started with my management lab is easy to find here. The simulations are here, and everything's in alphabetical order, so it's pretty easy to jump to. Again, it's just asking you to confirm so that it doesn't put the grades in the wrong place. Essay 1, it's going to take the resubmission grade and the highest grade. although in the grade book it says first draft. And now for the quizzes, I'm just going to go through and find the quizzes. So this is looking first at quiz chapter 1, then quiz chapter 5, quiz chapter 4, quiz chapter 6, quiz chapter 7. So it's pretty easy to find each of the proper assignment submissions, and you should always be able to find one. So if you're having trouble, you should just let me know. Now I'm going to click continue, and you can generally go through and see what it's coming through as in the system, and you'll notice some problems right away. So here's what I like to do. I like to just select Save Changes and then go through and figure out those problems as I go through the gradebook. So now that I hit OK, I'm on the screen where it's uploaded everything into ELMS, and you'll notice there's some problems. You can mute the assignments beforehand to avoid having these problems here. What I like to do is just click and sort, based on the submission itself, sort through. That way it's from smallest to highest, so it's really easy to go through and change the numbers. And here you'll notice the problem with the simulations. It's displaying as a decimal instead of showing the true 75 points, which will then be taken out of 100 in ELMS. So you just need to go through and retype the numbers. And so I'm doing that here, and it's really important you do this carefully so that you do not give somebody the wrong grade. So that's the unfortunate side. It's a little quicker than doing it manually, but it does come through incorrectly from the MyLab site. And so I'm just going to go through and quickly finish these. I find it's quicker once you've gotten through all the kind of different grades. So here I'm finishing up the 95s and then the 96 grades to go through and just default and do 100 if there's a lot of them. If there's not, you can just go through and type it manually, as I'm doing now, which seems to be the case for these. So I'm going to go through and do that for each assignment. And here I see, the rest all should be 100. So I'm going to go here and say, set default grade and set the default grade as 100 for everything that's left that hasn't received a grade. It doesn't seem like it came through right doing it that way. I'm actually going to go through and just do it manually just to be safe. It seems like it's just keeping it as 1 instead of doing 100 out of 100, and you really want to make sure the points are displaying as out of 100. So unfortunately, more typing, but pretty quick to put the numbers in. And again, as I'm going through, I am triple checking to make sure that the numbers match. When you see a 0 for either student, I like to go double check MyLab to make sure that they really did not submit, and I'll go through and do that after. So we're going to do the same for simulation 2. I'm going to go ahead and just pause now and then restart at the next assignment after I'm done inputting this data. So now that I've finished fixing the simulation grades, I'm moving on to the next problem, which will be the essay. So essay 1, you'll notice it's coming through as 3.6, 3.4. It's pulling up a grade out of the categories, which doesn't meet the out of 100 grade in ELMS. So again, I'm going to sort this from lowest to highest, and going through, you just have to actually do 3.2 multiplied by 100 to figure out what the actual grade is. It would actually be 3.2 multiplied by 25, which would be 80. And so that's easy then going through. For anything that got 3.2, it would be 80. For 3.4 multiplied by 25, you'd be getting to 85. So again, just like the simulations now, I'm going through and making the proper points out of 100. And unfortunately, I'm just having to do that multiplication out in order to get the right number. Now I've gone through and completed all of the submission numbers, got everything switched over for essay 1, and just going through now, I'm going to scroll over to the quizzes. You'll notice luckily that the quiz numbers actually come through right on track. So you'll see, here those are featured 10 out of 10 kind of numbers, so I don't need to do anything else with those. And as you scroll all the way over, you'll see now that all of the grades are available for the students, And that means they can see, their percent grades for the simulations, the essays, the quizzes, and anything we've done so far on the projects and their debriefs to be able to access their total grades, which helps give them an idea of where they stand in the class.